Hey guys, it's Jessica. Today we are talking cream and liquid bronzers, blushes, and highlights. I feel like this is a category of makeup that has grown so much, but I feel like in the drugstore, these kinds of products are a little bit harder to find. I feel like more and more brands have been tapping into this and releasing products literally in the past like 3 or 4 months. So over the past like maybe 5 or 6 months, I've been collecting these, trying them on, getting footage of them on my skin. So you'll get to see all of these. I think if I got them all, you'll get to see all of them on my skin, but I'm also gonna try to rank them. So we're gonna go by category: bronzer, blush, then highlight, and I will try to rank them favorite to least favorite. Some of them are gonna be tied because there are some really good, like for example, liquid blushes at the drugstore, holy moly. Another thing to note is I'm saying drugstore, but what I really mean is products under that $15 mark. Obviously, some of them are gonna be more like $4, some of them are more like $13, but just keeping in mind, some of them you can find if you walk into CVS or Rite Aid, other ones you might have to buy online like on Ulta's website. So obviously I've not tried everything that is available. I kept pushing this video back because more and more brands would release stuff, and finally I said, Jessica, you have to just stop there and film this video. So there might be a volume 2 in the future, maybe in 2020. I wanted to touch on the idea of creams versus liquids. I'm gonna be discussing both kinds today, but creams typically for me would be something that comes in a stick form, or perhaps something that comes in a pot that you kind of rub your finger in and maybe tap on. And then liquid might be something you squeeze out of a squeezy tube or out of a pump. I know this sounds obvious. These kinds of differences that do affect the way a product is applied. So let's talk application. The way that I would apply cream products that are in a stick, typically I will just apply it right to the face, and then I would grab a brush. I like the Sephora Pro Dome Stippling Brush number 41. It's great at blending in, especially cream like sticks like this. I love it for bronzer. There's also an Ecotools one that's available. I know at Target it's like $5.99. Very, very similar, way cheaper. So I will link both of those below. Sometimes I'll even take the brush and dip it right into the stick and apply it. Either way works just fine. For more liquidy products, sometimes I will tap it onto the skin and then blend it with a like stippling brush. This is one from Morphe, the M404. e.l.f. makes a great one I can link below as well that's even more affordable. They're just great at quickly diffusing a liquid product like that. It works for blush, highlight. Another thing I like to use is simply a sponge. A lot of times I'll just squirt like a liquid blush onto my skin here, blend it out, and then I'll grab the corner of a dampened sponge, tap a little bit, and tap it right on. I feel like for me, it was hard to get into cream and liquid products at first because I just didn't know of a good way to apply them, and I was nervous that it would end up moving around the foundation underneath. I feel like the sponge method moves around your makeup the least, along with like also your fingers if you're comfortable. I just feel like the sponge diffuses it a bit. But I also honestly have had really good success with brushes. I've been doing brushes more often than not lately. Let's start with bronzers. I was not able to find any liquid bronzers, and I am dying to find some because I think that would be something I would love. But I do have 3 different cream sticks to talk about. So my least favorite of the 3 that I've personally tried is the Burt's Bees All Aglow bronzer stick. It's in the shade Bronze Splash, and I don't know, I think this is meant to be more glowy. There is like no color payoff at all. Like, I thought, oh, well then maybe it's meant to be a highlighter stick. But when I looked at it and said, no, it says bronzer stick, I think they should have labeled this as maybe more of a highlighter stick for someone with deeper skin because it's really pretty. But the other thing about these sticks is they are super emollient, and so I feel like they tend to move the makeup around underneath it a lot. We'll talk about the blush version from this line as well here in a minute, but both of them kind of move the makeup around, so that's why it's my least favorite. This will be decluttered from my collection. That was number 3. Number 2 is the Wet n Wild Megaglo makeup stick. It's their contour one in the shade Oaks on You, number 804A. This is fantastic. It really is. It's a strong contender for number 1, but the number 1 one I like just a little bit more, but they're so similar. And honestly, if you are trying to save money, this one's closer to $5, whereas the next one I'm gonna mention is between 10 and 13. You can get the Wet n Wild one, you will be happy. This is one I absolutely think is best applied with a brush, so I'll literally take it onto my skin, stick it on, and then use the brush to blend it. It stays really well. It's still creamy, and that's why you're able to blend it. Don't be scared by the orangey tone. I think it can still look really, really nice on the skin. And frankly, most of the bronzers, even high-end, have a similar tone. I do feel like this and the next one I'm gonna mention are really close dupes for the Milk Baked bronzer stick that I absolutely adore. I love, love, love. These are so similar. So my number one choice for bronzer is the Physicians Formula Organic Wear Sculpting Bronzer. This is in the shade Toffee. I think they have a darker shade as well. This one is even creamier than the Wet n Wild one. I have it on my face today. Again, I apply it directly to the skin and blend it with a brush. It just stays in place really well. It has jojoba oil, so it looks a little bit more natural on the skin. It doesn't end up drying down to look dry. It ends up drying down and just looking bronzed. It's really, really beautiful. With both of these, I feel like they do a good job of not moving the foundation around underneath it too much. I do think the Milk one is a little bit better when it comes to that. I don't know what it is about that formula, but again, you can save a lot of money. These are beautiful. They look the same on the skin and they stay pretty well throughout the day. I think if you have super oily skin, you might actually prefer the Wet n Wild over the Physicians Formula one, because I do think this one's just slightly more moisturizing because of that oil. Let's talk about blush. This is probably my favorite category. It's the thing I reach for almost exclusively. Cream and liquid blush, especially liquid blush, is just my favorite. I want to start with an honorable mention because I don't think it's sold anymore, but if you can find it, I love the L'Oreal Infallible Longwear Shaping Stick in the shade 45, Sexy Flush. It's really light, so it'll only work on you if you have lighter skin, but it's such a beautiful stick blush, and I'm so sad that I think it's been discontinued, but I wanted to mention it. It's gorgeous. So number 8, my least favorite of the ones that I tried, is the Revlon Insta Blush. This one just felt really, really dry, like really dry. It's nothing like any of the other ones I've tried. So I don't know if this happens to be a dud. I have not really found many Revlon bronzers and blushes and highlights across the board that I've loved. And this was no exception. I just didn't like it. It's totally dry. Maybe I got a dud. If you've tried it, let me know, but do not recommend. The next one, number 7, is that Burt's Bees All Aglow line, and it is their Lip and Cheek Stick in number 1250 Suez Sands. Again, it's got this moisture core in the middle. The bronzer had the same thing. And so the idea is that it's really hydrating, but it just didn't show up really well on my skin. I have decently fair skin, and so if it's not gonna show up on me, it's really not gonna show up on many. So I think if they had focused more on the pigment, maybe less of that moisture core, I don't know. I think it's a product on the outside. It's just not super pigmented. So I don't think it's terrible, terrible. And if you really want a light flush, you might like it. It's super oily, so it does slip around a little bit more than I like as well. Number 6 is the NYX Bare With Me Hydrating Cheek Tint. I have the shade Do Me Right. This I got just because I wanted to try a different color. It's not terrible. I just find that the other products I'm going to mention are easier to work with. So I don't think this is a bad product at all. It's a little bit more stain-like. So when you do it, you know, I would say work a little quicker than maybe you feel comfortable, because it will stay in place once it's there. So longevity-wise, it's fantastic, but definitely find a shade you're comfortable with. This is not one I would necessarily recommend if you're closer to my skin tone. I think it'd be beautiful on a deeper one. But I just feel like it's not as easy to work with, but a pro is that it definitely stains and stays in place all day. Number 4 is from Wet n Wild. It's their Megaglo Blush Little Stick. I have the shade number 802A, Hustle and Glow. I thought this was nice. It was creamier than I anticipated, very similar formula to the contour stick from this. And the color was pretty. It was a little bit more orange than I typically like, but I felt like it blended out pretty well. Because it is more of a cream and less of a liquid, I didn't think this applied really well like if you tried to tap it on with your fingers, because it is a little bit more of a dry formula, not nearly as dry as that Revlon one though. So I think it works pretty well to literally draw it on your skin and use a sponge or to use a brush. You need a little bit denser of a brush than the Stippling Brush. I found that a Stippling Brush, because this was a little bit drier, was a little bit more difficult to move it around on the skin, but a sponge did a pretty good job. So number 4 is from ColourPop, their blush sticks. Honestly, I could have moved this one up. This is my favorite cream blush. The top 3 are all liquid. So if you're looking for a stick, this would technically be my number 1 pick for that, if that makes sense. I have 2 shades I really like. I have Cool It and Aloha. Aloha is a little bit more of a warm toned, kind of peachy pink. And then Cool It, as the name would suggest, is a little bit more of a cool toned pink. I love them both. These will stay in my collection for a long time. I think these are easier to work with than the Wet n Wild ones. They are, I think, a couple dollars more. And of course, you do have to buy them on ColourPop's website. Future editing Jessie here to say I'm wrong. I was just at Ulta 2 days ago, and they now sell ColourPop in stores and online. And the blush sticks are also available in stores and online. I knew ColourPop was sold there, but it wasn't until like very recently that the blush sticks, the highlight sticks, those are now sold online and at their stores. And I was so excited. So I wanted to pop in and correct myself and share that with you guys. I just think they're gorgeous. I think they blend really easily. I could totally use a stippling brush for these and it looks gorgeous on the skin. The wear time is pretty nice. Okay, the top three I can confidently say honestly are tied for number one. I can't pick a favorite. I just tried and I'm like, I literally can't. One of the top ones is from Ulta. It's their cream blush. I've only tried the shade Sunrise. This is gorgeous. It's actually what I'm wearing on my cheeks today. It's around $10 and again, it's a liquid type product. I will just blend it like that. This is a beautiful, cool toned pink. A little bit goes a long way, and I just feel like when I dip my stippling brush in it and then just stipple it onto the cheeks, it looks so beautiful. It stays really well. These kinds of products I found to be my favorite, the liquid ones, because they're just easier to blend onto the skin and they look way more diffused. They don't move around the foundation underneath as much. They're also beautiful applied with a sponge. Another one you guys know I've been loving are the ones from the Physicians Formula Organic Wear. These are a newer line. They're $10 on Walmart's site. They're like $13 on Physicians Formula. There are 4 shades. My 2 favorite, if you're near my skin tone, is Pink Berry and Gorgeous Peach. I've been using these like crazy. They're the same type of formula, very, very similar look on the skin as that Ulta one. If you have a deeper skin tone, they have the shades Apricot Glow and Crushed Berries. I just think these give this glow to the skin that is kind of ethereal. Like it's not a shimmer at all, but there's just this glow and it somehow stays on the skin all day long. It's really bizarre. So I love these. And then the last blush, you'll not be surprised to hear, is my Flower Beauty Blush Balm in the shade Pinched. I have a pink one, but I can't find it anywhere. The shade Pinched is my favorite anyway. These are around 10 bucks from Ulta. These, same thing. It's a liquid. You squeeze it. I'll squeeze it onto my hand. You can use a sponge or a brush. This is still my favorite. If you're near my skin tone, the shade is gorgeous, but again, it gives that beautiful glow to the skin without having any shimmer. It stays all day long. I just adore these so much. This one is almost gone. I need to get one in this shade, but you can't go wrong with any of those top 3, nor can you go wrong with the ColourPop ones. I did want to give another honorable mention. I just don't currently own it, to the e.l.f. Duo. I'll put it on the screen right now. That duo, it's like from their Aqua Infused line, is a cream blush and bronzer, and it is beautiful. I haven't tried it in years, but I remembered before I even liked cream bronzer and blush, I really liked that. It just got old. So that's one that's kind of on my radar to try again, to buy again. Wanted to mention it if you were interested in it. It is a good product. I really, really like it. So let's talk about highlighter now. Number 6 is the Revlon Photo Ready Insta Fix Highlighting Stick. This is better than the Revlon blush that I showed. That was my least favorite blush. But just compared to the other ones I've tried, it just doesn't compare. For me, with the highlighting stick, the way I apply it almost exclusively is I get a little bit on my ring finger and I literally tap it on. If I can't apply it that way, I instantly am like, because it's just so quick and easy. It looks so beautiful if you put it there, like under your brow bone and then in that area. So number 5 is the Kokie Strobe Lights Face Highlighter. This one is really actually quite pretty. It's really iridescent and gorgeous. It is one of the creamier ones I own, if not the creamiest. So it makes it easy to apply, but it just is so iridescent that, again, it was a little more unnatural than I like. If you like that look though, I think you'll like this. Now, it does actually have a little sponge on this side. I guess you blend with it. I feel like that would move my foundation underneath way too much, but it is there. Kokie, I know, is sold at Walmart. If you have a Meijer near you, I see them in end caps there too. So not terrible, just wasn't my favorite, but it's super creamy and super, super like see it from space. Another see it from space one is from Makeup Revolution. This is their liquid highlighter. I have it in the shade Starlight. So this is the only liquid one I'm gonna talk about. I actually put it on today, and it reminded me of why it's not my favorite, because what I do is I get a little bit into the dropper and put it onto my hand, and it's really pretty, but again, you can see it from space, and it just doesn't blend in and diffuse itself as easily as my other top 3 do. And so for that reason, I kind of bumped it down a little bit. I actually had originally had it at like number 3, I think. I have something else on top I'll talk about in a second to kind of make it look a little more even, but I ended up going back in with my foundation and kind of, because it just didn't blend and look as natural. It looked more strip-like, whereas the other ones are easier to work with. So number 3 is the Maybelline Master Strobing Stick. I have it in the shade Light. I like this. It's got a nice creaminess to it, but it'll still stay in place a decent amount. This is a little bit pinker, So it kind of looks a little more natural on my skin tone, but that's something to keep in mind. You might look at the other shades if you don't want like a pink toned one. It's not so pink that it's gonna look like blush, but there's definitely a little pink pool to it. I tap it on with my fingers, it looks nice. If you had a coupon or there was buy one, get one half off and you just wanted to try one, it's pretty good. The top two, again, could totally be tied. I really like them both so much, but I did put these in this order. So number 2 is the Physicians Formula Organic Wear Dewy Highlighter. Physicians Formula has just killed it with these. This one has a nice creaminess to it, but it's not overly creamy, meaning it actually stays on. So again, I'll just take this on my finger and tap it in those areas. This looks a lot more natural. It still has that pretty sheen to it, but it really does look gorgeous on the skin. It diffuses nicely. But my number 1 is from ColourPop. It's their Light Stix. I have the shade Earth, which is spelled U-R-T-H. This one is so gorgeous. It is the easiest to apply. It stays on really well. They've nailed it with these formulas. I feel like ColourPop for me can be very hit or miss. Some products I love, some products I absolutely hate, but this and the blush ones are just gorgeous. I'm waiting for them to come out with bronzer ones. Oh man, that would just change everything if it was really good. But I just adore this. I think it looks natural and pretty on the skin, but it definitely catches the light. There are other shades, of course, if you didn't want this shade, but it's my favorite. It wears really well. I love it so much. Another quick little honorable mention for these little duo sticks. These are honestly so similar. I think the NYX one is slightly better. So Rimmel has this Insta Duo Contour Stick where it's a contour and then like a sort of highlight shade. It's got a slight bit of glimmer, but it's mostly just a lighter shade with slight shimmer. The highlighting stick I don't think is great. You're way better off buying one of the other ones I mentioned. The contour is not terrible actually. It blends decently well. It's decently creamy. The NYX one is the NYX Wonder Stick. It's the exact same kind of idea. Even creamier than the Rimmel one, which is why I recommend this over. And I think the highlighter's a little bit better too. They're both just a little bit creamier, a little bit easier to blend on. So if you're interested in something like that, I recommend the NYX one over the Rimmel one. So I think that was everything. I'm sure I forgot like 3 products that when I'm sitting down to edit this, I'll be like, dang it. But I hope this was helpful. If you have recommendations for drugstore cream and liquid products, please let me know down below, especially if you know of a really good liquid bronzer. I'm dying for that. But this was so fun to do. Obviously, it took me some time, but I hope it was helpful as you're looking for the best products that are out there. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll check out my drugstore skincare routine video I recently put up. I'm really proud of as well. It took me a few months of trial and error of trying some products, and there are some really good products I found and some that were really not great, but they're all available at the drugstore. So I will link that video up in the eye and down below if you're interested. And other than that, I hope you'll subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video.